So just to introduce myself, I have a couple slides here, but I'm Rita Algori. I'm an Associate Director, Global Regulatory Affairs at Amgen, and I am one of the co-founders of the PQI standard. So Craig just gave us a great overview of APIX, which is helping to exchange structured data and de-silo our information. And that can work alongside other FHIR standards very effectively. So I have a few slides here on data standardization and the PQI standard, which I think will give some context to the demo that I'll give in just a few minutes here. So I think I'm amongst a lot of like-minded people here, but just wanted to take a quick moment to sort of talk about the value of content and data standardization, and how we're continuing to build momentum in this space with the development of different standards. So there are a number of different projects within the regulatory remit that are in varying stages of development these days, including IDMP, which has a FHIR implementation, ICH M11 for the clinical protocol, API for labeling, and then PQI for CMC. And each of these standard sets does a fair bit of world building and expansion into their own unique areas, but they also leverage overlapping concepts and coverage areas. So if you implement one of these, you've made some strides towards implementing pieces of the others. So this is a good showcase of interoperability, content reusability, sort of across an entire filing, extending even virtually into the greater healthcare ecosystem in the future, where we're all using the same language and interoperable exchange mechanisms. So, Craig, if you could go to the next slide, I'm just going to kind of go a little bit deeper into the PQI standard. PQI stands for Pharmaceutical Quality Industry. We created this back in 2023 and published our first version in 2024 in collaboration with industry stakeholders. So our initial goal here was to have a broad CMC standard with a wide scope that we could use to facilitate some internal exchange operations, such as system to system exchange, as well as exchange across some third parties within our network, such as external suppliers, contract manufacturers. But the standard isn't necessarily bound to a specific use case. Those are just some examples. So this is an overview, this spiderweb diagram of the coverage areas of the PQI standard. So it's built to be a modular data model that spans 14 different domains, including identification, composition, organization, stability, manufacturing process. I won't list them all because they're here on the slide, but essentially it helps us get sort of our core CMC information, which is typically stuck in a narrative format, in a technical report, a batch record, a legacy regulatory filing, helps us take that information and get it into a structured, reusable format. And we've mapped these domains to the CTD as well as part of this effort to see what that would potentially look like. Next slide, please. So this is a little dissection here on how you would use the PQI standard to build a stability data package from end to end. So we start from different source systems, which are typically siloed, minimal interaction, if any, between them. And then we can sort of take data from those systems, package it up into the FHIR resources like observation, diagnostic report, plan definition, etc. And then those FHIR resources are helping us make those connections across systems and unite this information into a bundle that's ready for exchange. Essentially, kind of bringing that interoperability and making those connections across those different data sets and attributes and setting up those relationships between them. And then we can dispatch that bundle for delivery via FHIR APIs. It's exchanged as a JSON message, but we have a lot of different options for rendering that message, really making it, human readable and interacting with it. And there's an example of this both in the demo I'm about to give as well as on the next slide. And there's a couple animations here, but this is part of our implementation guide. This is an example of how we can take that JSON message and, really make it more interactive. So here's a stability study viewer. So we can see here in the first image, we have sort of that bottom line on top summary. What are my stability conditions? What tests am I running? What's the conclusion? What's my shelf life? So this combines some very structured data attributes like the stability times and temperatures with a semi-structured narrative conclusion statement. And we have a table here also that's generated by the code on the testing schedule. And we also have, yeah, thanks, Craig. This is not an image that we provided, but the interface is able to generate this graph based on the JSON message of our long-term degradation trends at 25 degrees, as well as this accompanying stability result table. And in the interactive view, you can tab between the study conditions as well. You can look at the 25-degree or the 40-degree. This is just a flat picture on the slide, but it's part of the PQIG and it's live on our website if you want to check it out and kind of get a feel for it. And so that's kind of a snapshot of the human regulatory reviewer-friendly version. But if you go to that last image, sorry, there's a lot of animations here. This is also showing us sort of the breakdown of FHIR resources that are used, and we can navigate the information that way if we want to as well. So there's a lot of flexibility in how we can render this. And again, very excited for the demo to show even more of that sort of live and in action. So next slide, please. So PQI and the other FHIR data standards give us a structured data foundation that we can build upon, which lends us significant capability and opportunity to bring in other efficiency tools. So in the demo, I'm going to show it's based partially on this reference architecture that's shown here, which includes a connected data sourcing layer at the top. So those are all of our structured sources, which feed into a regulatory assembly layer, which includes our data standards. There's an interoperability and exchange layer where we're using that API to API communication that's facilitated based on the APIX standard. And then finally, we can expose those different layers of structured data on both sides. So the sender, which is the sponsor, as well as the recipient, which is the regulator, to AI tools that can enable different levels of automation. So, we can set up event-based deterministic workflows, and we can also use sort of a more agentic generative approach to generate new content. So I'll show, for example, information requests and responses to information requests. So we're going to be looking at kind of this reference architecture and what this can look like based on a custom app that we developed. So I think with no further ado, Craig, if you just go to I've got a sort of filler slide there. We're going to move into the technical demo portion. So I'm going to present first on what we've been doing at Amgen, then I'll pass it over to Core Hytel from NNIT, and then Omar Sarang from DNA Nexus, and then we have some time for questions at the end. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Hopefully this will work. Okay, so let me know if you can see it. You should see a screen that says sign into sponsor CMC.
Yes, we can
All
see.
good? Perfect. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to be showing this demo of a custom solution that we developed in-house at Amgen to bring together PQI, APIX, and we also have EPI in there as well, along with an analytics layer that facilitates communication and exchange. So there's a sponsor view here as well as a regulator view. The regulator view is really for illustrative purposes, just to kind of show workflows and the flow of information back and forth. Just a disclaimer, we're not a vendor, and we aren't deploying software to any regulator. It's really just for illustrative demo purposes. So with that, I'm going to start the demo, which is a video that I'm going to provide some voiceover to. We do have working software, but just to kind of make everything fit very seamlessly in the 20-minute window without loading times, we have prepared this video. So we start out with the sponsor view here. We're going to log in via our SSO, which brings us to this dashboard. And we can see sort of at the top here, we have a variety of different environments that we can navigate to. So we have an external data warehouse. we have a regulatory workspace, and we have a Fire Studio. So this connects to basically an enterprise data lake in theory. The actual demo space does not connect to anything because it's just a demo, but effectively, it connects to your system. It can house structured data, and we're tabbing through some of those structured data assets that we can bring into the system. Um, in addition, ideally all of this comes in automatically through that enterprise system, but we can also manually add information if needed. We're going to go next to the Fire Studio. So this is where, our IGs that we've imported are housed. So we can see, what we've imported, and we see a status associated with that. We can see the history. We can see all of the value sets that are associated with those implementation guides. This takes a second to load here, but again, you can see these are all of the value sets and controlled lists. It also gives us some status indicators if, there are any warnings. So again, we're uploading things, but there's always a human in the loop. It always tells us, if there's a problem. Again, we're scrolling through some of the concepts. You can see some of the lists, and they are editable, should you need to edit them. We can also filter down. These are just the PQI specific lists that we're showing. So this is a CMC specific list for manufacturing step. We can also, the video moves fast, but we can also show internal mappings. So we don't expect sort of the internal enterprise systems to be using Fire terminology. So it does give us this opportunity to map to Fire within this system. Can also see the bundle profiles. Again, there is a filtering system here, so we can see only the PQI specific bundles. So all of these were imported from the IG. And again, it tells you which components you need for the profile, as well as some business rules associated with that and some descriptions. So we're going to go into our regulatory workspace now, and we're going to start a process of setting up a new submission. So this is all dummy data that you'll see. And so this is for demonstration purposes. We can fill out a few structured fields here, and then I'm just going to pause. So you can see, we fill out a title, we give an application type, we select which regulator, and then we select the product presentation. And this product presentation filter ensures that, we're creating a Fire message for only data that meets these this scope and these attributes. So it's not our entire system that's mapping at this time, but it's really scoped per the product presentation. So in doing this, this is going to create our submission. And the first thing we're going to do, so you can see some flags here. So the first thing we're going to do is, I believe we're going to request an application number. So this is kind of like a sequence number to sort of set up our submission. And this requires some back and forth between the sponsor and the regulator. So what we did is we submitted a request to the regulator for a sequence number. And so what we're going to do now is we're signing in on the regulator side. So this is the regulator's dashboard. And we can see that they received that request from us, and they automatically assigned a sequence number to us. So that's an automatic system action. So essentially our system is pinging the regulator system, and then it pings us back with the sequence number. So that's not something a human is doing. That's an automated action. We refresh on our side, and then we can see, we have an application number now. So that's kind of our first step. So we refresh, we can see it was granted. And now just going to show some of the agents that are associated with sort of our submission environment here. So we've got two of them. So we've got an IR tool, and we've also got a value set mapper. And the demo will showcase both of those tools. And they're event-based. So the value set mapper will show first. That's something that triggers if you are trying to prep a Fire package and it fails. So this helps you do that value set mapping and kind of clean up your data. So what we're going to do here, so we have our application number. We're going to start setting up a submission and adding content to that submission. So first we add our stability data. So we have some structured stability data we can pull in here. In addition, if we want to, we can also upload a document. So again, this is giving us flexibility. Of course, the ideal is we are exchanging purely structured content, but if we have a document we want to include as well, we have the capability to do that. So we have in the submission, the structured stability profile, and then we also have some batch data that we're providing. We're trying now to generate a fire bundle, but it fails. So this is going to, we have some um, issues with the data. So we need to go to our value set mapper. So this error is going to trigger that automation to run, which we're going to show. So we just went into our automation tab. We're seeing the value set mapper is queued. We're going to click on the run. Um, so I think, it's pointing out here this value set mapper, all of these AI tools that we'll show are based on sort of this structured data backbone and foundation. So this is showing, the PQI standard is defining these value sets, and then the mapper is just assisting with, you're providing a data set, the mapper is helping you fix any errors in your data set to make sure that you're compliant with the fire standard. Takes a couple seconds here for the agent to work, but we'll see a status update. We can see it's running. And now our run is complete. So we're going to click on that, and we can see that the activity page is just showing effectively, the process that it went through. So you can kind of view the agent's thought process to really sort of see the sequential process that it went through to do the mapping. So we just scroll through here pretty quickly. So you can see the logic that the model used to come up with the proposals. And then if we go to the output tab and open the review table, we can see these are the proposals that it made. So, if we have sort of fragments in our data that aren't mapping to the fire standard, it's coming up with these proposals. Again, there's some filtering here based on, kind of what's an exact match, where is there, similar spelling, but maybe some issues, where are there some semantic matches. Effectively, this requires human review to confirm, the agent comes up with the proposal, we have to kind of review these and confirm that it came up with the right thing before it maps to our data. So here, we're going to apply all. So all of those proposals, that mapping was done. And we're going to go back now to our submission. So we're in the middle of drafting here. And we're going to try to generate our bundle again, now that we've run the value set mapper. Takes a couple seconds. So we're trying again. It's working on it. It'll populate in a second. Okay, there we go. So we have our fire bundle was generated. We can see a preview of the JSON code there. We're going to scroll through that. So we were able to build our bundle thanks to the agent. We can see we have some warnings here. So there's a validator tool that's built in for the purpose of the demo. We're not really going to focus on that, but there's a validator that's built in. So that kind of flags to you as the human, there are some problems with this data set. It also shows you, some issues with the data if there are discrepancies. And right now what we're doing is we're getting ready to route this to an internal sponsor reviewer before we send it out to a regulator. So all kinds of issues. Again, it's showing sort of the value of having the human in the loop. It's telling you there's lots of problems with this data. Are you sure you want to move forward? Again, this is a demo, so we're going to move forward with it. We're signing in now with a different sponsor account for the reviewer. So similar dashboard here. Again, we're still in the sponsor environment. This is sort of the reviewer persona that's going to get to see the submission that was built. And you can see there, they have a review task associated with this. It's going to take a second to load. And yeah, so it's awaiting your review. Again, you can see all of those validation errors. You can acknowledge that. You have to kind of click a box saying, I see the error. I want to move forward anyway. Um, so there are a few check boxes that you have to acknowledge. And then, you can either request changes or you can approve it. And upon approving it, you can either as the reviewer or the author, you can send it to the agency. So we just approved it. And now the reviewer is going to send it to the agency. So we can see we're ready to send. So we're going to send this data package off to the regulator. And it takes a couple seconds, but we will get sort of confirmation of that in just a second. So our task was sent. We got that confirmation, and now we're going to switch over to the regulator persona in just a second. I think we're going to view another confirmation. So again, yeah, we can see our task was completed. We see the status. It's sent. It's awaiting acknowledgement. Again, more confirmation steps here. So we're going to switch to the regulator. So we'll be able to see it from the regulator's perspective, what that data package looks like, and use some regulator tools to parse that message. So we can see we received something new. There's 441 fire resources exchanged in one document. So we can start tabbing through this based on the fire resource. There's some composition. You can see, we're not navigating a JSON message. We can see this in sort of a tabular format. Again, as I mentioned earlier, there are lots of opportunities for rendering this information. This is one way to do that. But effectively, you can sort of tab through all of these results in a tabular format. You can also preview the document that got sent over alongside the structured data. And then we have an IR drafting agent. So let's say, you're the regulator, you received this data package and you want some assistance kind of using that structured data with the AI analytics, AI agent on top of it. You want some assistance with drafting an IR and assessing the data package, kind of looking for potential gaps or discrepancies in the data. So our agent just ran. So that's an automated action that happens after we receive a data package. Again, we're kind of scrolling through the agent's thought process here. Sequentially, how did it do the assessment? And we can see the queries here. So we didn't submit a great data package, which we'll see kind of a very scary stability package where our conclusions are not supported by the data, which makes for a good example, but a terrible stability package. So it gives us some reviewer notes, and it gives us, it shows us the fire evidence. So if we wanted to go back to the JSON code, we could. It tells us exactly where it's pulling things from, and then it gives us a draft list of questions. And it came up with 5 questions. These are editable. We're not going to edit them in this demo, but just shows sort of an example of, kind of what the output could be. So we're going to take these and we're going to send an IR. So we just started a workflow to send an IR back to the sponsor. So scrolling through here, there's 5 of them, and we're going to send that back to the sponsor. Takes a couple of seconds, but we'll get a confirmation. So that was sent, and now we're going to go back to our sponsor view. So we're kind of going back and forth a little bit, but we can see now we got a notification we received an information request.
And Rita, sorry, just a time check.
Yep. I've got a couple minutes left, but I can speed it up. Okay, so this is our IR response drafter. Effectively, what this is going to do is it's going to give us some suggestions for how we can respond to the health authorities' questions. So I'm going to skip forward a little bit. This is just kind of showcasing, again, like how this tool works. You can see some of the output. I'm going to just skip forward into kind of integrating that into a filing. So an agent gave us a draft of, proposed actions for us. And then what we need to do is integrate that into a filing. So it doesn't give us the answer necessarily, but it's telling us, this is what the regulator is asking for. This is what you submitted. And then here's the data gap, what you need to submit to kind of answer the question. So it gives us sort of that scaffold that we can build upon, and tells us, these are the outstanding pieces of data that you need to submit. So it's kind of serving as a guide for us in completing that IR. So there's what we're going to do here, in the video, it just kind of goes through all of the responses, provides a sample answer, and then just want to show again we're generating a Fire bundle here. So there is an RTQ implementation guide that we're using. So again, in responding to the information request, that's also going to generate, we're also sending that via Fire. So we're generating a bundle. So just wanted to point that out. We're using the questionnaire response resource type. And then ultimately that's going to get sent to our health authority. And in this demo, we're bypassing the review step, the internal review step. The program does let you do that. And I'm just going to show, we sent that IR over to the regulator, and I'm just going to spend another minute or so just showing sort of what that looks like from the regulator side, and some of the flexibility that we have. So previously, we showed how we could use the agent that is internal to this system, and automatically runs as soon as you receive an IR. But we have other options as well. So we can connect this to an external model. So in this example, so again, we're showing we received that IR. Now we're going outside of that app, and this is OpenAI's Codex tool. So we're showing that we can connect to Codex using the regulator MCP. And this gives us a little bit more control over, the assessment that we're running using AI. So again, we can see how Codex is doing its analysis. And then sort of at the end here, rolling through this. Again, it's showing us exactly how it's thinking about it, the sequential process. And then it's going to give us, some key takeaways. We can see the fire paths directly if we want to, but effectively it gives us some key takeaways about the application that we submitted. So it shows, we didn't support our conclusions, and there are a variety of different problems with the data. But effectively, this is just showing, you can use the agents that are embedded within the application, or you can connect it to an external model as well for a little bit more control and more of that sort of back and forth dialogue. So with that, I will wrap things up. I wanted to give a lot of thanks to Mohit Juneja, who actually developed this application. Also wanted to say thank you to Mike Abernathy for his support of this work, to Sheetal Gaiki and Craig for your feedback on this. This was definitely a group effort, and I appreciate the opportunity to show this today. And with that, I will stop sharing and I will hand over to Core.